Why do some people build wealth and others never do? Think about two people, two friends. They grew up in the same neighborhood. They went to the same school. They started their first jobs at the same time, earning almost the same salary. 20 years pass. One of them owns a home. He has money saved. He sleeps well at night. He is not rich by the standards of kings, but he is free. He does not fear the end of the month. He does not panic when his car breaks down or when a doctor's bill arrives. He has built, quietly and carefully, a life of financial security. The other? He is still struggling. Every paycheck disappears before the next one arrives. He has worked hard, harder, perhaps, than anyone he knows. He is not lazy. He is not foolish. But somehow, money never stays. It comes and goes like a tide, and each time it goes out, it seems to take a little more with it. What is the difference between these two men? It is not luck. It is not talent. It is not connections or education or even the amount they earned. The difference is knowledge. Specifically, knowledge about money. And that is exactly what we are going to explore today. We are going back, far back, to one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. To a city of golden temples and towering walls. To a place where camels walked through dusty markets and merchants counted coins by candlelight. We are going to Babylon. And from the streets of that ancient city, a man named George Samuel Clason gathered timeless lessons about wealth, lessons so simple, so powerful, so human, that even today, nearly 100 years after they were first written down, they have the power to change your life. This is The Richest Man in Babylon. Meet the author, Clason George. Samuel Clason was born in 1874 in Louisiana, Missouri, a time when the American West was still being shaped, when fortunes were being made and lost in the blink of an eye, and when most ordinary people had no guide, no compass, no teacher to help them understand money. Clason was a man of many ventures. He founded a map company, ran a publishing business, and spent much of his life observing the financial lives of everyday people. He watched families struggle. He watched businesses fail. And he asked himself a simple question. Why do people who work hard still end up with nothing? He began writing a series of small pamphlets, parables set in ancient Babylon, and he distributed them to banks and insurance companies across America. They were meant to teach ordinary men and women the principles of saving and financial wisdom through simple, unforgettable stories. In 1926, these pamphlets were collected into a single book, The Richest Man in Babylon. It became one of the best-selling personal finance books of all time. It has been translated into dozens of languages. It has been recommended by billionaires, financial advisors, teachers, and parents. And the reason is simple. The lessons are not complicated. They are not hidden behind charts and equations. They are told through stories, stories of real people with real struggles, real dreams, and real failures. Stories that feel, somehow, as if they were written just for you. Let us begin. The desire for wealth, Bansir and Kabi's question. Our story opens not with a king, not with a powerful merchant, not with a man of great wealth. It opens with a chariot maker. His name is Bansir. He is a craftsman in the great city of Babylon, a city so magnificent that people traveled from distant lands simply to see its towering walls, its hanging gardens, its canals gleaming under the desert sun. But on this particular afternoon, Bansir is not thinking about Babylon's greatness. He is sitting on the low wall outside his modest home, his chin resting in his hands, staring at the ground. His workshop is behind him, half-finished chariots waiting for his hands. But his hands are still. His mind is elsewhere. His friend Kabi, a musician, comes to visit. He sees Bansir sitting in that heavy, faraway silence. "Bansir," Kabi calls out warmly, "just the man I was hoping to find. Lend me 2 shekels, will you? I need them only until after the Feast of Bel." Bansir looks up slowly, and with a sadness deeper than Kabi expected, he says, "If I had 2 shekels to spare, Kabi, I would not be sitting here like a lost man. I have been thinking hard about why we are poor. We are not young men anymore. We have worked and toiled for many years. But today, if a misfortune came, if I were sick for a week, I could not feed my own family." Kabi sits down beside his friend, and for a long moment, neither of them speaks. They think of the men they know who are wealthy. They think of Arkad, a man who grew up in the same streets, the same dust, the same poverty. A man who had no special gifts, no wealthy family, no magical fortune that fell from the sky. Yet Arkad is now the richest man in Babylon. How did he do it? Kabi asks quietly. Bansir shakes his head. "We must go to him," he says. "We must ask him. Not to beg, not to ask for his gold, but to ask him to share his wisdom." And this simple act of asking, is the first and perhaps the most important lesson in this entire book. Most people who struggle financially never stop to ask why. They work harder. They complain. They wish things were different. But they never sit still long enough, as Bansir did, to truly look at their own life and ask the honest, uncomfortable question. Why is my purse always empty? Bansir and Kabi gather a small group of friends, all men who have worked hard and have little to show for it, and together they go to find Arkad. Meet Arkad, the richest man in Babylon. Arkad receives them graciously. He is a man of quiet dignity, not boastful, not cold. He is the kind of man who has found peace alongside his wealth, and that peace is visible in the calm of his eyes. He listens as his old friends explain their struggles. And then he smiles, not condescendingly, but with the warmth of someone who remembers exactly what it felt like to be where they are. "I was not always rich," Arkad says. "Let me tell you how it began. When Arkad was young, just a boy, really, he worked as a scribe, copying tablets in the temple. He was paid very little. Like most young men, he spent everything he earned. Each week, the money came in. Each week, it disappeared. One day, a moneylender named Algamish came to the temple and asked Arkad to copy a long, important document. The task was to be finished by morning. Arkad worked through the night, his fingers aching, his eyes burning, but he finished. When Algamish came to collect his work, he was pleased. He asked Arkad what he wished as payment. Arkad, nervous but honest, looked at the old moneylender and said, "Teach me the secret of how to become wealthy." Algamish studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly he nodded. "I will tell you this," Algamish said. "A part of all you earn is yours to keep. It should not be less than 1/10, no matter how little you earn. It may be as much as you can afford. Pay yourself first. Then let this money work and grow." Pay yourself first. Not your landlord first. Not your food seller first. Not your creditors first. You first. Arkad went home that night with these words ringing in his mind. And from that day forward, he kept 1/10 of everything he earned. He did not touch it. He did not use it. He let it sit and he watched it grow. At first, the amount was small, almost laughably small. But Arkad did not laugh. He kept faith with the rule. And slowly, the way a single seed slowly becomes a tree, his savings grew. When Algamish returned some time later and saw what Arkad had done, he nodded with satisfaction. "Now," Algamish told him, "you must put your gold to work. Gold is like a man. If it sits idle, it does nothing. But if it is put to work wisely, it will multiply. Gold has children, and those children have children. Once you understand this, you will never be poor again." This is the second great truth. Your money can earn money, and the money your money earns can earn more money. This compounding, this silent multiplication, is the engine of wealth. But Arkad also made mistakes. He trusted bad advice. He gave his savings to a brickmaker who knew nothing about jewels and lost it all buying foreign gems. He learned a painful but unforgettable lesson. Seek advice only from those who are competent in the matter at hand. He rebuilt, slowly, carefully, with discipline and wisdom. And over the years, Arkad became not just wealthy, but the wealthiest man in all of Babylon. The 7 cures for a lean purse. The king of Babylon himself once summoned Arkad. He had a problem that kings have always had, and that ordinary people share just as deeply. His kingdom was prosperous, but most of his people were poor. They worked, they strained, they struggled, and still they had nothing. The king wanted to know, could wealth be taught? Could the knowledge that made Arkad rich be shared with the masses? Arkad said, "Yes, my king. Wealth is not a matter of luck. It is a matter of law, and laws can be taught." The king gathered 100 men from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all levels of poverty, and asked Arkad to teach them. Arkad stood before them and said, "There are 7 cures for a lean purse. Master these 7, and you will never be poor again." The first cure: start thy purse to fattening. For every 10 coins you place in your purse, Arkad said, spend but 9. Your purse will begin to fatten at once, and its increasing weight will bring a warm feeling of satisfaction. In today's language, save 10% of everything you earn. Before you pay your bills, before you buy groceries, before you spend anything, set aside 10%. Boys. This sounds simple. It is simple. But here is the truth. Most people never do it. They always say, "I'll save what's left over at the end of the month." And what is left over at the end of the month? Almost always, nothing. You must pay yourself first, every single time. The second cure: control thy expenditures. Now, some of the men listening to Arkad objected. "But Arkad," they said, "my expenses are already equal to my income. How can I save 10% when I have nothing extra?" Arkad smiled. He had heard this objection 1,000 times. "Tell me," he said quietly, "if your income increased by 1/10 tomorrow, would your expenses also increase? Would you find new things to spend this extra income on?" The men looked at each other, uncomfortable, because they knew the answer was yes. "And that," Arkad said, "is the heart of your problem. Your expenses are not determined by your needs. They are determined by your desires. And our desires, if unchecked, will always expand to consume whatever income we have, and more." Arkad drew a distinction that cuts to the heart of financial struggle, the difference between necessary expenses and desires dressed up as necessities. You need food. You need shelter. You need clothing. These are necessities. But the newest phone, the restaurant meal when a home-cooked meal would do, the subscription you forgot about, these are desires. And desires are not wrong, but they must be controlled. Budget not to restrict yourself, but to know yourself. The third cure, make thy gold multiply. Arkad had saved his gold. He had controlled his spending. Now what? A man's gold is not merely the metal in his hand, Arkad said. Every gold coin you own is a worker in your employ. Put your workers to work. Invest wisely. Let them earn children, and let those children earn grandchildren. This is the principle of compounding. It works slowly at first, almost invisibly. A river does not carve a canyon in a single day. But over time, with patience and consistency, the effect becomes extraordinary. Einstein is often quoted as calling compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. Whether or not he said it, the sentiment is true. A modest sum, invested wisely and left to grow, becomes, over decades, a fortune. Start small. Start now. Never stop. The fourth cure, guard thy treasures from loss. This is the cure that many ambitious people overlook, because they are too busy thinking about gaining, not about protecting. The first sound principle of investment, Arkad said, is security of principle. Do not be seduced by the promise of great returns. The desire to make wealth quickly blinds men to the risk they are taking. Guard your capital. Consult wise men. Be cautious. He told of a man who gave his savings to a brickmaker, who then went off to buy jewels in a distant country, knowing nothing of jewel trading. The savings were lost entirely. In our time, this looks like giving money to a friend's sure-thing business idea, investing in a cryptocurrency tip from a stranger online, or sinking savings into a scheme that promises to double your money in 60 days. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. The rule is not to be afraid of all risk. Wise investment always carries some risk. The rule is to ensure that those who guide your investments are knowledgeable, experienced, and trustworthy in that specific field. A jeweler knows jewels. A farmer knows land. Seek the advice of experts. The fifth cure, make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. Arkad looked around at the men before him, men who paid rent month after month, year after year, building nothing of their own. Own your home if you can, Arkad said. A man who owns his dwelling builds equity. He is not forever enriching a landlord. His family has security. His home becomes a part of his wealth. This principle is one of the oldest in personal finance, and it remains among the most powerful. Home ownership is not right for every person in every situation, but where it is possible, where it is wise, owning a home builds equity over time, creates stability, and removes the uncertainty of rent that rises every year. Your home is not just a place to live. It is an investment in your future. The sixth cure, ensure a future income. Plan for the days when you can no longer work, Arkad said. The years move faster than we expect. Build an income that will protect your family when you are gone and sustain you when you are old. In modern language, insurance, retirement savings, pension funds, investments that generate passive income. The principle is timeless. Do not live only for today. Plan for the season when your hands can no longer work, or when life takes an unexpected turn. Today's comfort is not guaranteed tomorrow. Build a bridge. The seventh cure: increase thy ability to earn. Cultivate your own powers, to study and become wiser, to become more skillful, to act so as to respect yourself. Arcad said these words with great emphasis. Do not be satisfied with what you know today. The man who learns more, earns more. Always. Invest in yourself. Take courses. Find mentors. Study the work of those who have succeeded where you wish to succeed. Your earning potential is not fixed. It grows exactly as much as you are willing to grow. These are the 7 cures. Let us hold them in our minds as we continue. The 5 laws of gold. Arcad had a son, Nomacer. Before Nomacer set out into the world to make his own fortune, Arcad gave him a bag of gold and a clay tablet inscribed with the 5 laws of gold. He told Nomacer, "Take this gold and this tablet. Go out into the world. In 10 years, return to me. If you have learned the laws on this tablet, you will return wealthy. If you have ignored them, you will return with nothing." Nomacer went. He was young, confident, a little reckless, as young men often are. He spent the gold recklessly. He lost it on foolish ventures. He listened to the wrong people. Within a few years, the bag his father gave him was empty. But then, he remembered the clay tablet. He took it out. He read the 5 laws. He read them again. And slowly, painfully, he began to live by them. 10 years later, Nomacer returned to his father, not with the 1 bag of gold Arcad had given him, but with 3. He had tripled his father's gift. These are the 5 laws of gold. The first law: gold comes gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who will save not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future and that of his family. The second law: gold laboureth diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds for it profitable employment, multiplying even as the flocks of the field. The third law: gold clingeth to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise in its handling. The fourth law: gold slippeth away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar or which are not approved by those skilled in its keep. The fifth law: gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings or who followeth the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers or who trusts it to his own inexperience and romantic desires in investment. Read those 5 laws again, slowly, because they are not just laws about gold, they are laws about human nature, about our weaknesses, about the temptations that lead us away from wealth and toward ruin. Gold, money, does not choose its owners randomly. It flows, predictably, toward those who respect it, protect it, and put it to wise use. And it flows away, just as predictably, from those who ignore these laws. Nomacer wept as he returned the 3 bags to his father and said, "Father, I was a foolish young man. I lost what you gave me. But the laws on that tablet, they never lost their value. They gave me back far more than the gold I wasted." Wisdom, once learned, cannot be taken from you. The luck factor. Does luck make men rich? In a meeting hall in Babylon, a group of men gathered to debate a question that has fascinated and frustrated human beings since the beginning of time. Is wealth a matter of luck? Some argued yes. They pointed to men who inherited fortunes, to gamblers who struck it rich, to merchants who happened to arrive with the right goods at the right moment. But the wisest man in the hall, an elder named Arcad, shook his head. "Consider the man who says he is unlucky," Arcad said. "He complains that opportunity never knocks on his door. But does he keep himself ready? Does he study? Does he observe the world? Does he act when an opening appears, or does he hesitate until it is gone?" He told a story. A farmer once had the chance to buy a fertile piece of land at a very low price, but he delayed, saying he wanted to think about it. When he finally returned to buy, the land had been sold to another man. The second man, who happened to be at the right place and acted without hesitation, was called lucky by everyone around him. But was it luck? Arcad asked. Or was it readiness? The prepared man, who acts on opportunity, will always appear luckier than the man who waits. This is one of the most important ideas in the entire book, because when we believe in luck, we surrender our power. We become passive. We wait. But the prepared man, the man who has saved, who has learned, who has built his skills and his resources, he sees the same opportunities everyone else sees. But he can act. And so, to the world, he looks lucky. Luck favors the prepared, boys. The Gold Lender of Babylon, Dabasir's story. Now we meet one of the most human and heartbreaking characters in the entire book. His name is Dabasir, and his story is a story that many people, if they are honest, will recognize in their own lives. Dabasir was a young man who had every advantage. He came from a good family, learned the trade of a saddle maker, and married a good woman. But Dabasir had a weakness that is perhaps the most common weakness among human beings. He spent more than he earned. It started small. A debt here, a borrowed coin there. Then the debts grew, and the interest on the debts grew. Until one day, Dabasir found himself unable to face the men he owed. He abandoned his wife, his home, his family, and fled the city. He fell in with a band of robbers. He was captured in the desert. He was sold into slavery. Let that land for a moment. A man who simply could not manage his money ended up in slavery. Now, in slavery, Dabasir met other slaves. Some had given up. They sat in the dust, defeated, broken. But one older slave, a man who had once been free, spoke to Dabasir one evening. "You are not a slave by nature," the old man said quietly. "You have the soul of a free man. But a free man also has the responsibilities of a free man. A free man pays his debts. A free man lives within his means. A free man does not run from what he owes." These words hit Dabasir like cold water on a hot day. He had never thought of it that way. He had always felt like a victim of bad luck, of difficult circumstances, of other people. But the old man was showing him something else. He had done this to himself. And if he had the power to destroy his life, he also had the power to rebuild it. Dabasir escaped from slavery. He walked across a vast, merciless desert, nearly dying of thirst, driven by one promise he had made to himself in that dark camp. "I will return to Babylon. I will repay every debt. I will rebuild my life." He did. He returned. He went to each man he owed money to and said, "I cannot pay you all today, but I give you my word. I will pay you a portion each month until every debt is cleared." Most of the men, moved by his honesty, agreed. Dabasir then did something very structured and very disciplined. He divided his income into 3 parts, 70% for living expenses, 20% to repay his debts, 10% to save and build wealth. Month by month, he stuck to this plan. Some months were harder than others. There were temptations, there were setbacks, but the structure held. And over time, debt by debt, coin by coin, Dabasir paid back everything he owed. He became free. Not just legally free, not just financially free, but free in his spirit. Because a man who faces what he owes, who keeps his word, who honors his commitments, that man walks with his head high. Debt is not destiny. It is a problem, and problems have solutions. The Camel Trader on the Walls of Babylon. There is a story in the book that is less about money and more about something deeper, about the human will, about what it truly means to be a person of character. A man named Tarkad sat near the outer walls of Babylon, hungry and ashamed. He owed money to a man named Dabasir, the same Dabasir who had once been a slave, and he could not pay. He had borrowed to eat, borrowed to live, and now the borrowing had become a chain. Along the road came a camel trader, an old, weathered man leading his camels back from a long desert journey. He saw Tarkad sitting there, staring at the ground. The camel trader sat with him and began to speak, not about money, but about the walls of Babylon themselves. "Do you see these walls?" the old man said. "They have stood for 1,000 years. Armies have come against them. Floods have come. Earthquakes have come. And yet, the walls stand." "How?" the old trader asked, and then answered himself. "Because they were built one brick at a time, by men who came each day, every day, and laid their bricks with care. No single day's work was impressive. No single brick seemed important. But together they made something that cannot be broken." This is the metaphor at the heart of the entire book. Wealth is not built in a day. It is not built by one brilliant decision. It is built brick by brick, by 10% saved every month, by one debt repaid, by one wise investment made with care. The walls of Babylon did not fall because of armies. They fell only when the men inside stopped maintaining them, when discipline gave way to complacency. Your financial security is your wall. Build it, maintain it, never stop. The Lender of Babylon. Wisdom about debt and interest. There is one more character whose story teaches a lesson that is perhaps more relevant today than ever before. His name is Mathan. He is a gold lender, what we would today call a banker or a creditor. But Mathan is not a greedy villain. He is a thoughtful man who understands money with rare clarity, and he has strong views about lending and borrowing. A student once asked Mathan, "Is it wrong to borrow money?" Mathan shook his head. "Borrowing is not wrong in itself," he said. "It is a tool. Like any tool, it can build or it can destroy. The question is not whether you borrow, but why and how." He explained that there are two kinds of debt. The first kind is debt used to create value, to buy a home, to start a productive business, to acquire tools that help you earn more. This debt, used wisely, can be a stepping stone. The second kind is debt used to consume, to buy things that give pleasure today but produce nothing tomorrow. This debt is a trap. It takes from your future to pay for your present. And if the habit continues, the future becomes poorer and poorer. Mathan also spoke about something very few people consider: the emotional weight of debt. A man in debt, he said, is not entirely free. Even if no one is watching him, even if the creditor asks for nothing today, The debt sits on his chest. He cannot think with full clarity. He cannot act with full courage, because a part of his mind is always turned toward what he owes. This is something that many people with debt recognize immediately. The anxiety, the low-level hum of worry, the way it colors every decision. Mathan's lesson: borrow only when the borrowing will make you richer, or safer, or more capable, and repay what you owe with all the speed and discipline you can muster. Financial freedom is not just about having wealth. It is about having no chains. The man who owes nothing fears nothing. Build toward that freedom. Bringing Babylon into your life today. We have walked the streets of Babylon together. We have sat with Bansur in his sorrow, listened to Arkad's wisdom, followed Dabasir through the desert, and learned the laws that gold obeys. Now let us bring all of this into today, into your life, into the choices you will make this week, this month, this year. Modern Lesson 1: The 10% Rule. Starting today, before your next paycheck is spent, set aside 10%. Automate it if you can. Let it leave your account before you ever see it. Put it in a savings account, an investment account, or a retirement fund. Do this for 1 year and observe what happens. Not just to your bank balance, but to how you feel about yourself. Modern Lesson 2: Write a budget without shame. Many people avoid budgeting because they are afraid of what they'll find. They know, somewhere deep inside, that the numbers don't look good. But knowledge, even uncomfortable knowledge, is power. Write down what comes in. Write down what goes out. Find the gap. Then close it. Modern Lesson 3: Let money work while you sleep. Whether it is index funds, real estate, a diversified stock portfolio, or a simple high-interest savings account, your money should be earning money. The specific vehicle matters less than the habit. Find something appropriate for your situation and your risk tolerance. Consult someone who knows, not someone who merely claims to know. Modern Lesson 4: Protect what you have built. Insurance is not glamorous. Emergency funds are not exciting, but they are the walls of your financial city. Build them, maintain them, and when something in your life threatens your financial stability, those walls will protect you. Modern Lesson 5: Invest in yourself constantly. Your skills are your most valuable asset. The man who reads is more valuable than the man who does not. The woman who studies her craft becomes irreplaceable. Find one thing you can learn this month that will make you more valuable to the world. Then learn it. And next month, find something else. Modern Lesson 6: Face your debts with courage. If you have debts, look at them. Write them all down. Every single one. The amount, the interest rate, the monthly payment. Then make a plan. The debt snowball method says, pay the smallest debt first for the psychological victory. The debt avalanche says, pay the highest interest first for the mathematical advantage. Either works. What does not work is looking away. The final lesson: what Babylon teaches us about life. Babylon fell. The great walls crumbled. The hanging gardens are gone. The canals are dry. The merchants and the kings and the slaves are dust. But the laws that Arkad discovered, they did not fall with the walls. They survived because they are not really about money. They are about something deeper. They are about discipline. The discipline to do today what others won't, so that tomorrow you can do what others can't. They are about patience. The patience to allow small actions to compound into great outcomes. They are about responsibility. The responsibility to face your debts, your spending, your financial reality, and to deal with it honestly and courageously. And they are about hope, the deep and justified hope that no matter where you are today, no matter how empty your purse, no matter how heavy your debts, it is not too late. The laws are still available to you. They do not discriminate. They do not ask about your past. Bansir sat on that wall feeling hopeless. Dabasir sat in the desert as a slave. Nomasir wasted his father's gold. And yet, each of them found their way back. Because the laws were waiting for them. Patient as stone. Certain as dawn. The question is not whether these laws will work. The question is, will you? Wealth is not about numbers in a bank account. It is about the kind of person you choose to become. The person who faces their finances with honesty. Who saves before they spend. Who protects what they've built. Who learns and grows and never stops. That person, whoever they are, wherever they come from, carries within them the spirit of Arkad, the richest man in Babylon. Thank you for listening. If this story moved you, if one idea from Arkad's wisdom sparked something in your mind, then do not let it die in this moment. Write it down. Share it. Act on it. Today. Because the secret of wealth is not a secret at all. It has been sitting on a clay tablet in Babylon for 4,000 years, waiting for someone willing to read it. Now you have read it.